Okay, welcome everyone to tonight's capital planning meeting. I'd like to start by calling the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome, Scott, to the committee.
Thank you.
Were you able to catch up and watch a couple of the previous meetings so you're justice for all?
Someone's got some feedback. Yeah, I was, and Holly sent me all the capital planning requests also.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get started. I know I'm not sure. Haven't heard from Terry. I'm not sure if she's going to be joining us at some point. But we'll start going down the list. Justice had sent out a spreadsheet. Thank you, Justice, for putting that together with the various requests on them, and also the funded expenses. Here comes Cheryl. We'll just give her a minute to join in.
Again, thank you.
Tom, I don't have that spreadsheet. That's the only thing I don't have.
Okay, I don't have the ability to bring it up. I don't know, Holly, if you can bring it up, but we can just wait and we can email that to Scott maybe. It's basically just it's a summary. Scott, we'll make sure that you get that spreadsheet.
Okay.
It's a summary of has all the capital requests on it that Holly had forwarded to you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think I should be able to share. Oh, I just need to get permission.
Hi, Cheryl, are you there now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, I guess basically we can go down the various departments and just kind of run through them and discuss them.
Hi, sorry.
No worries.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. Made it. I thought it was at 5:30 for some reason.
Nope.
I did a little fancy footwork, but that's good.
Okay, the first one that came from the assessors department was a shared vehicle they're looking to get from at the building department and for inspections with the assessors and the Board of Health agent, and that'd be they're looking for a new vehicle, or they would be open to a possible reused, repurposed or used vehicle. They were looking for $35,000 for this vehicle. Not sure if anyone has any comments or questions on it.
Just that there is a pass down from the highway department if we need it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Bob had mentioned, as far as that if we were to replace his vehicle, that it potentially could be a pass down. So that is a possibility on that vehicle. I know Adam was against leasing vehicles, as far as that goes, I believe.
Right, we have too much debt. We have too much debt.
Although I do think that does hamper the capital planning a little bit as far as the community goes, just because of, although we may have, by leasing, it does create a little more debt. It also does allow some of these, because some of these items are some pretty big ticket items, especially once you start looking at over a couple $100,000 at a time. There's certainly large portions, but
We really need to be creative.
right. I think the as far as on the new, I think we should kind of go through them all and then we can go back. How do you want, Terry? Did you do this last time, Terry?
No, but to be honest, I had some concerns, so I met with Adam and he helped me formulate some questions that I hope we can get answered and help. So as we just go through, hopefully I wrote them on the right pages and I'll have them.
Okay.
So, did you go through it? This is your first time?
Yes.
I think and Cheryl, I think you're the only senior member here because you've been.
Yeah, I've been on the past few years. And as opposed to for the debt, I think if we're here to make recommendations, if we think that's the best call for something, that's what we should recommend. Doing a lease or something, because it's not our call, it's the Board of Selectmen will make the final call. So if we think that's in the best interest of doing something for the town, that's what we should recommend.
Okay. And to my knowledge, Holly, Adam decides where the pilot goes. The TA
From
where the pilot goes.
what are you talking about, the pilot?
The payment in lieu of taxes from the electric company.
No, they decide. They talk to the administrator, but they decide what they want. They usually, one year they purchased a police car, but they decide where they want to
With
put that
Adam,
towards.
not with us.
No, not with us, no.
Thank you.
So that's kind of separate. Tom, I did have a question.
Yep.
Noticed on the department priority, nobody put anything in there. Could we get this spreadsheet out to each department and ask them to put these in order? Because I can go through each one and say, well, this looks more important to me, the breathing stuff for the fire department, but I'm not the department head. They'll know what the order should be.
I think I did it. I kind of asked them as we were going through, and I think I know I asked Highway, and I thought I asked the fire department, and they all kind of gave me the answer of they're all high priority. They wouldn't have asked.
Right.
But they
And
do
I get
have
that,
a
but
first,
they,
second, and third.
yeah, they need to put them in order.
So Adam made me this spreadsheet from last year. I don't know. I can share screen, but I have a camera. But is this what you're doing, Justice? Are you making this type of sheet where it says, this is from 2021, so last year for this year? Department, capital asset, proposed replacement, improvement, public, and it's listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you have, each department has it's organized so that everything that was asked for by department is listed, but the first 5 choices, they're ranked. The second thing it has on it, which are the questions that Adam helped me formulate. So for instance, for the police chief, and Adam told me to wait until the meeting, propose it to you, Tom, that you could email the department heads and ask them these questions. So I'll be happy to send them to you in email. So say, for instance, for the police department, are any of the chief's 911 funds covering any of his requests? So if we can find that out, I don't know if you know it already, Scott, if you know it, are you allowed to jump in, or?
He did, as he was going through, he did list on his ones that were potentially covered by other funds. I know that this one I have right here would be for the Ladder Hill antenna project. He had listed as coming out of other funds. That would be probably the 911 grant.
That on this piece of paper, and I think this is what Justice is going to be responsible for as the clerk. It says possible funding sources, old body scrap trade-in. So say, for instance, if this is okay to say, pass down, so Lori, capital project for developmental services and assessors, shared vehicle. It would be on this as a request, and then possible funding source passed down, right? Would that make
Right.
sense to you? So then it also has, say, and I don't, I'm new. So it had, for this one, for example, it had new broadcast server upgrade, possible source of funding, cable retained earnings.
That's all on the spreadsheet that Justice had sent, the cable return to earnings and that.
Yeah.
But then when they went through, I noticed on the applications, when they did apply, they talked about the funding sources. The repeater voter system would, Chief Bennett would have coming out of the 911 grant.
That's already been answered, you're saying?
Yes, when he actually did the proposals in that on the projects, he had said what he was going to take them out of. He had the computer replacement would be through other funding other than taxation.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
The portable radio replacement was not there are some that are carryovers that we kind of seem to do every year. And maybe we ought to just go down them. I agree with Holly, though. It'd be nice if the departments would give us, maybe send it out and get their priority from them. I think that would be certainly helpful as far as that.
Where there's, like on this sheet, the potential other sources of funding, or if there is other sources of funding, because we, and Steve's here. Hi, Steve. We know he has enough in his retained earnings to cover his budget. We know that, correct?
Right. He's listed as possible funding sources for antenna annual equipment upgrades, and live streaming upgrades through cable retained earnings.
Right. And so did Sewer Bob say if he has enough in his retained earnings to cover his costs?
On let me find the project.
He's at about 400K.
The pump station upgrades, they'd be looking to possibly fund it through USDA financing. The transformer engineering at the treatment plant through retained earnings through the enterprise fund, as well as the recirculator water system at the treatment plant through retained earnings through the enterprise fund.
So to have that on a spreadsheet in front of us, I think that would be don't you think that would be very helpful?
Yes, I was reading it off the spreadsheet.
I don't have that.
Did you see the one Justice sent today, Terry?
No?
It's all on that. Only thing that isn't on that is, I think Chief Bennett had said one of the things, you say the Ladder Hill Antenna Project?
Yes.
Possibly, but I think he wasn't sure yet if that could come from 911 grant. He was going to check.
Okay. I think let's just run down through what they've got, and if there's some that we feel, as Cheryl said, if we feel that they need that are important, then we can put together a list of where they may be coming from, if other earnings. Because I know as something that we do every year on the, say the cruiser replacement. We know that they use the cruiser for patrols. We know that they, as far as that goes. So I think that's an important capital, item. Whether we put forward the possibility of leasing a vehicle or whether we put forward a possibility of purchasing the vehicle, I think basically the smaller ones, a lot of times it's easier to just buy it outright. But I know as far as, the two big ticket items with the highway department, with the sidewalk machine and the dump truck, that basically those two items would wipe out all of the capital planning money, potentially. So that just, although they may be very important, to try to purchase them all via cash, I don't think is necessarily the best way to help the town as far as, in my opinion, it doesn't get as much stuff out there. The bulletproof vest replacements right off the bat, I think that's something that's the safety of the offices. Cheryl, you had something on that?
Yeah, what we did last year and the year before was go through the safety items first. Like the fire department needs the breathing gear, the police department needs their radios. If that was on the list, we got those things and it reduced our funds from there. So, and, you know, those are safety items we considered first.
Okay, that makes
And then kind of went from there to see what was left over.
So you didn't choose the replacement vehicle first?
What do you mean?
Not necessarily the vehicles, but, you know, the breathing.
No, I understand what your priorities were.
Yeah.
They did, you know, the police department vehicles do need to be upgraded, and they did get one last year, but it's different this year because they need the vests and the you know, the different.
Well, a cruiser really, as far as a cruiser, it's kind of a safety item too. I think when you start looking at you know, those things, but I think what Cheryl's saying, if I'm not missing it, they need to wear the bulletproof vest while they're on shift. We're not creating anything crazy here. So I think that, you know, right off the bat, I know that's certainly something, in my opinion, that is
Should be covered.
on our side. I think it should be. Go ahead, Scott.
Can we just go through each item, and as we talk about those items, because it seems like we're jumping all over the board, can we just go through each item? First question we ask, safety or non-safety? You know what I mean? That way we're not jumping, because I feel we're going to get all over the place, because if we start sorting safety with this list now, we're not going to scrub the items. I think we need to scrub each item because they're all important. And I think we need to rate them as we talked about it. The first question, safety or not, and then we can get into the discussion, I think.
I hear you.
Okay. The shared vehicle on the assessor's office, safety, non-safety at this point?
I vote non-safety on that one.
I kind of think it's a non-safety item at this point. Cruiser replacement, in my opinion, it's a safety. It's something that do you want to go through? We'll just go through and list all the safety ones first, then we'll go back and talk about those and see where we are with numbers.
Just give me a minute to get the paper.
All set, Terry?
No, I got fire, I got capital. Here it is. Okay.
Bulletproof vest replacements.
Well, the first thing they have the vehicle inventory, right? And so you're saying cruiser safety, right? So safety. Okay.
Next is the bulletproof vests.
I thought the next one was the Polaris Ranger crew and then the ACO truck.
No, I think he's going off of Justice's list.
I'm just going down the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I can't, it's too small for me to go on. Yeah, all right. In here, that's what it is.
So bulletproof vest safety.
Yep.
The portable radio replacements.
Safety.
He's got computer replacements. I'd say that's non-safety at this point.
Does that have to do with anything with 911 system, or is that just daily operations of the police station?
Those, I believe, a daily operation on the police station. The 911 computers, I believe, either come through the 911 grant system, or I could double check on that with the list.
Because if it's just basic computers that they use for reports and so forth, I didn't know if it had anything tied in with the 911 or anything like that, or code red or anything.
I don't believe at this time. I believe when he did the proposal, it was for the office computers and that.
Okay.
The repeater voter system. That's actually, and I'll speak a little bit on that. I feel that's a safety item, because what that's doing is allowing the portable radios to bounce off of that and repeat to dispatch. So that if you're in an area like the Summer Baldwinville without a good repeater voter system, it doesn't transmit as well to the dispatch center. So I've seen that. I think that's a safety item. I don't know what other people's opinions are on that.
I agree. There's a lot of dead spots in town. And like you said, if it can't transmit, that's life or death somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's definitely safety.
I would echo what Scott's saying.
Okay, Ladder Hill antenna project. I think he had talked about that potentially, along with the some of those other items might be able to be 911 grant funding, which would have been the computer replacements and that. So we'll get to the funding part when we come back on those.
That's not a safety one, right?
On the Ladder Hill,
Yeah.
Isn't that what he said where it was choppy?
let me check on that.
But would the repeater voting system take care of that? Would it trump
I think-
that Ladder Hill?
I think the Ladder Hill antenna project would actually be a different than the voter system. The voter system would be probably towards the be a repeater system.
Okay.
This would be to move the antenna and install the new side arm on top of the tower if needed.
Is that for the total of $965.99? That's not a big ticket item, right? $965.99. You're talking about
The Ladder Hill antenna project was $5,500, and the repeater voter system he's got listed as $9,000. Okay, cable. We get those coming out of potentially out of the cable retained earnings.
oh, I
This point, I don't believe they're really safety items as we're going through on the safety items. Albeit, they're going to be important when it comes to that. Some of the stuff, especially now with the COVID and being able to do the broadcasts and that, we're kind of relying more on the cable stuff than. So I think that'll be something that, as we're looking at the projects, we kind of decide if it's something that we need to get to. Unless someone has other opinions on that.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Scout Hall would
I
be.
agree.
Scout Hall, I don't think that's a safety item at this point. Conference room system. Vehicle exhaust system on the fire for the final upgrade. I know that it is a firefighter safety, but I know it's also may not be a community safety.
excuse me, I'm sorry to say, but the Scout Hall is cable retained earnings. So
Yes.
that's pretty much cared for, right? We just have to vote to approve that it can come from that.
Right. When we go back, once we go through and identify the safety versus non-safety,
Yeah.
we're still going to go and we'll still work on each one, but we'll work back. And especially if they've got a potential other source of funding, then we'd have no reason to not recommend, that move forward.
So you went the SCBA protective breathing.
We started with the vehicle exhaust. I don't know what other people's opinion were on that.
I think it's safety.
Yeah.
And it's also mandated that he needs to get it done.
Yeah, I know it is.
Right.
I think it's a safety item.
Yeah, it's his first on his list, right? SCBA, isn't it? First on his list, SCBA protective breathing system.
Well, he didn't rank them. He just put the SCBA protective breathing apparatus. Now that's something that.
Oh, state breathing system. You're talking about station vehicle exhaust system, that one?
Yes.
Okay, the second one on the list. On my list, sorry. Sorry, I'm working off this list.
The SCBA's, the self-contained breathing app system.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking to replace the remainder of those.
Be right.
That's something that I know he's done the first phase this year. I think he brought forward, that's the total amount in the remaining. But I believe, if I recall, and I'd have to look up the project, he was also the possibility if we broke it up again, and did it in a second phase out of 3, I think would also work on that. So I think it's a safety item, certainly, because they wear them with every fire call, as far as, going inside the building. So it's certainly a safety item. But we can look at, as we're going back, look at the funding maybe see if it's something that could be split. He also did speak to and I believe I sent it out to the vendor that would, for the air breathing apparatus, the fire hose and all that. And I believe the leasing procedure to go through them also. Again, like I said, that's something it's really not our responsibility to tell the board that to lease or not lease. It's putting forward what's needed, and then it can be decided from there. The breathing air compressor, actually familiar with the compressor that he's still using. It definitely cannot be, it was there when I was there. It's still there and can no longer be tweaked and adjusted. And without that, even though it's a large ticket item, you can't fill the air bottles. It makes no sense trying to find another town. So I think that's a safety item as far as filling the air bottles and that.
And that's 70,000.
Yeah, 72, I believe. Ambulance computers. I believe that's the patient care computers. I think it's not necessarily a safety item, it's a patient entrance item, so I'm not thinking that's a safety item. I don't.
He said estimated life 4 years, and they were built in 2017. Quantity 2, age 3 years. Potentially you could push it off, but make sure, keep an eye on it. And
that's something too and potentially, if there's another round of CARES money, I know those are covered under the communications and that. So that's something that potentially, depending on how the next round, if it comes out to the communities, maybe a possibility with that too. So, but I don't consider it a safety item. But I'm not the only opinion on that. So certainly weigh in.
I agree. Especially if it still has life on them.
The gear washer and extractor and the gear dryer, they are safety items, again, for the firefighters, but at the same time, it's possible that there could be other options to look for them. I don't know. As far as safety wise, if we want to count that in the first round or count that and kind of look at it as we go around the second time around on the items, might be the.
was it the potential that the gear wouldn't be dried in an emergency?
It is, and what the biggest reasoning on the gear washer and dryer is the cancer initiative with the carcinogens and that, and washing the gear properly, drying it properly, because a lot of the members, I don't believe very few of the members have 2 sets of gear here in Templeton. Some departments they have a second set of gear. They'll wash their primary gear and switch over to their backup if there's another call. Templeton hasn't been fortunate enough to be able to replace all their gear so that they have that. I know the chief's slowly replacing fire gear out of his budget. Just it's difficult. You're probably talking for the gear, you're probably talking about $3,500 a set. So as those get slowly replaced, it's a little more less important.
It's a little safer for the firemen because of carcinogens. So your point is not so much to have dry gear, but and then what is the potential of old machines pulling out the carcinogens of today?
I think the machine wise there, it's fine doing that. I don't think that it's the washing machine. It's basically at the end of the day, the gear extractor is a large commercial washing machine. The gear dryer is a separate system. I think it's a very important item, but I do think that there maybe as we're going down, I don't think it'd be his top priority on a safety item. as far as his department goes. Again, we can ask the department heads to rank their items like was brought up. But I think as we're going through identifying safety ones first and then checking to see where our numbers will sit, we may get back to that and consider it it's like a half a safety item, I guess, in some ways, but. Supply hose, he put in replacing the hose for his 4-inch hose, his 2.5-inch hose. Those, again, are safety items, but I don't believe his hose has failed at this point. I think what he's looking to do is start a replacement program because he does have a lot of hose that's pretty much older than a lot of people on his department. So I think that's something that he's looking to start a replacement program on it. It does get tested. I believe he does his testing every year. So as it's failing, I think we need to be ahead of the curve with replacing it, but not necessarily replacing it all at once.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, can we get an inventory of what he has in dating on his equipment for that hoses? Is that something we can ask
Sure,
of
we can.
him?
It should be on probably on his latest hose testing report. I don't think that would be a difficult information to.
Okay.
What
Just-
were you asking, Scott? I'm sorry. What were you asking? Because he said quantity 5,000 feet for a 4-inch firefighting supply hose, 2.5 feet firefighting attack supply hose, 3,000 feet. The year he got it, the 5,000 was 1990, so it's 30 years old, and its estimated life is 20 years. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just an inventory of what he has and what the current lifespan on that equipment is, and do we need to purchase some now? Or is he in dire need of it, or can we get some more life out of it?
And so that's the information he gave. 1990, 30 years old. They only they're made to last 20 years, $6 a foot. And then the other one was received 1987, 33 years with a life expectancy of 20 years. So the first one is 10 years overdue. The second one is 13 years overdue, if that answers your question, sir.
Yeah.
I think that if you might benefit, if I'm sorry to volunteer or ask Holly, but this is very helpful to me to have it right in front of me. I haven't, maybe Holly can make you a copy of these things that they did.
I think she did forward him
It's easier to have the physical copy in front of you. I don't know about you, but I like to be able to circle things and underline things, and you know what I mean?
Really, all his hoses are over age. I mean, there's no.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I didn't see that I didn't scrub it enough to see that. So that's good to know that
I'm happy to answer it, because if you have any other questions, I'm happy to
Okay.
give you the 411.
All right. That's good to know. Thank you.
Over.
I don't believe a lot of it. I don't believe it's failed, but again, it's well over its age, so it's certainly going to start failing.
Right. And we can't have that happen during a fire. So
Correct.
Oh, safety.
So are we looking at that's a safety item?
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, and the utility truck, I don't believe that's a safety item at this point. I know it's they're looking to use that for the department, but I don't think it's a safety item as far as the utility wise goes at this point. Station security upgrades. That's a kind of a touchy one. The security at a fire station, ever since the new Homeland Security stuff and all that, and the fact that they are a ALS service with various narcotic, as far as medications and that, it kind of is a security item. It's not necessarily a safety item, but it's kind of one of those things that if something happens to you at your fire station or something happens with the medications, might be a town insurance policy kind of thing versus the actual safety item. So I don't know if I call it safety now for what we're doing, but might be something as we look, Did you say something, Cheryl? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's on mute.
I agree.
All right, we got to the pump station upgrades. at the sewer plant.
Is that all you have for fire? Because I have a lot more than that on here.
You do, or do you have a lot?
Yeah, we had a station security upgrade. Forestry truck is 42 years old, built in 1978.
Yeah, that's the utility truck.
No, then the utility truck is under that, 1984, 36 years old. So the life expectancy of Forestry 2, which I think he said breaks down a lot, is 20 years, and it's 42 years old. The utility truck is 36 years old with a life expectancy of 10 years. The tanker one is 31 years old, 1989, 20 years.
You sound like you're reading off his vehicle inventory, but you're not reading off his capital requests.
I thought these were off his capital requests.
I don't think so. At least they weren't on any of on the forms that he submitted.
Okay.
Those were his vehicle inventories on.
My bad.
An idea.
But my bad, but still, that's,
Oh, I agree. The sewer, the pumping station, the treatment plant, and the circulation. I don't necessarily think they're safety items. I know there is alternate funding that's looking at when we come back through. I don't know if would be considered safety. Any other opinions on that?
Wasn't one of them that they have to go down in a confined space? Which one was? I remember them talking that they have to upgrade one because they have to go down in a confined space and it's very dark and not a safe situation for them.
yeah, you heard right. And I'm trying, it's all, that's coming back to me.
I think that might be the, I want to say I'd have to look at, might be under the DPW one. So is that under Bob's DPW at the water?
I thought it was sewer. He said he had a pump station that he had to actually go down. The workers had to go down underground.
Let me check on if that's the case, it'd probably be the Karate Ave, the pumping stations there that he's.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Let me look through my notes that he wrote. You know, the thing with this is DEP here. There's a lot of environmental laws that have to go with the sewer department and, you know, that are mandatory. So, that would be a red flag for me for safety. Let's see.
It might be, but those three items are all going to be funded by the sewer department or by USDA financing. So I don't think we need to really be concerned about those because we're probably going to vote to do them anyway. You know?
Right. I remember him saying that one of them he was concerned because they had to go underground and so forth. But
You're right.
Yeah, I think it was the pump station.
yeah.
Wasn't it? So wait, again, just let me review my notes. Was it the one with the transformer? Was it that one where?
No, I think that one, they just have to, it's on its last hoorah, and I think the electrician had to spend numerous hours trying to repurge it to get it to run if it fails or something like that.
Right. I mean, it's only running on one transformer now out of the two that's supposed to be running on.
Right.
But again, like Holly had said, that's should fall under the further on. If it's going to have an alternate funding source, then
Let it fly, yeah.
the DPW, the stormwater management. Again, it's not a safety, but I think we're going to find that that's one of the items that we need to continue doing along the way.
MS4, stormwater management,
Yes.
Yeah.
MS4, DEP, MS4.
Replacing H1. I don't know if I'd consider that a safety at this point because he does have a vehicle that's currently operating.
On that one, Tom, I know it's older. I think it's got like 230,000 miles on the chassis and 150,000 on the motor. So it's showing its age. And being a first responder, that's his primary vehicle. So I think it's getting closer to that, more of a safety. I don't think they've ever had a new reliable vehicle over there, or the DPW just never had a newer reliable vehicle where he's a first responder. And so I know the truck is it looks nice, but it's getting old.
That's
And I
not
don't know.
a hand-me-down situation, is it?
Yeah,
We're just deciding safety right now, so.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think it's more, it will become a safety issue because of the high mileage and being a first responder.
Okay, I agree.
Now, is that the vehicle he's looking to hand down?
Yeah. Which would be perfect. If it stayed in town, it would probably be okay. But when you're out and about and that fails, I think we're going to be asking for trouble.
So he's asking for a super cab, 6-foot bed Ford Ranger. That's the one we're on. And the other one, his old one, can go to a,
Developmental services, I think.
and that's a total of $31,435. So we're saying safety on that one.
That's my opinion. I mean, it's getting old. I've been trying to look into some of these things, and I know the mileage on that is extremely high.
Well, when you think of the last storm and what happened up in the Partridgeville Road area, you need a reliable vehicle to get, with extreme weather, you need a reliable vehicle.
And I know this last storm, they had 7 guys out. They had trees broken, so they had 4 guys working with the light department. Then they had a water break. So we paid for it last storm. Some roads didn't get plowed till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So to have reliable vehicles out on the fleet is definitely a priority.
I have a question. Is Lori considered a first responder, Lori Rita?
No, I think that's inspections, right?
Well,
She does Board of Health too.
Right.
Well, Jane Hogue is the head of he's the chairman for the Board of Health, but
She's the health inspector. She's the,
Right.
Lori would be the health inspector, right?
Lori's developmental services, so anything, right? Developmental, I've been trying to
Yeah.
spin this out in my
I don't
own
believe
mind.
she's considered a first responder. I don't believe so.
She does health inspections. I know that because she inspected.
She does tanks and,
If there was a health emergency, she would have to go out, but I don't believe she's considered a first responder under that, official definition.
Okay, so we're considering the H1 as a safety item, or? I mean,
what Ranger?
I don't necessarily think it's safety, but I do think it's important that we look at it. Again, I think it's kind of one of those half safety items, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what Scott's saying, and I know that that's pretty much going to be the case on the next couple vehicles because the fleet's old. I mean, there's no way around the fleet over there. And that's where it might be our recommendation as we look at those items that we put forward that we feel they should be replaced, but not necessarily purchased to the tune of, $400,000 between the 5 of them. Maybe we put forward something that, it comes out as it's gone through a leasing company that, and even though it does increase the debt, it may be more valuable to increase the debt, but have the safety of some of those departments a little bit move forward too. So that's something we can discuss, on ourselves and put forward. And as far as item wise was kind of where we're looking at this point, I think.
And would it make sense to rank them?
Well, let's finish going through on the safety items, and then we can go through and, rank the rest of them because we still get the rest of them to go through.
Rank his, because his departments are huge. The requests are huge. So,
I guess I don't understand why it's considered a safety item. I mean, if it's a safety item for him, then why would we want to give it to another department to use? I realize he goes out in storms, but the other 2 are going to be going out for inspections and could run into just as much problem.
I think some of the,
Go ahead.
it's not, I think it's more the way the response is done. I mean, I know like a lot of times cruisers and I know the chief's vehicles and stuff, the response is a lot harder on the vehicle as far as driving wise. I don't necessarily know and that's kind of a little bit why I don't necessarily think of it as a safety item. It may be, if it's unsafe to drive, then you're right. It shouldn't be, if it's unsafe for anyone to drive, it shouldn't be handed down to another department. I think we've had a bad habit of doing that here in town sometimes, and it does creep up on the repairs a lot too. So we kind of have to weigh out, and that's where it comes to where it's a little bit easier sometimes to not buy a vehicle outright and spread things around a little bit too.
Could we ask Lori too, or shoot her an email about that issue? You know, the first, you know, how, when she goes out, what type of calls she answers, emergency calls. I know I caught her, I always catch her doing her job. I'm all over town. I caught her doing her job yesterday. She's great. But it was on a site that wasn't paved, you know.
I think the truck is fine. It's just getting tired, and for, you know, to rank him as a first priority, first responder, as a DPW director to inspectional services, it's like apples and oranges. You know what I mean? I think you need to. The truck runs fine, but it's good to just stay around town and do inspections. I think it would more fit that to end its life that way than to take a chance keeping it to the DPW. But like I said, it's a catch-22. It's like a half and half. It's not.
Well,
it could fail.
I think we're going to get back to some of these. I mean, obviously, just because it's not a safety item doesn't mean it's not going to be
right
gone through and done and approved. I think if we continue down the list, we'll be able to get stuff ranked out. The foreman's pickup truck with the plow and the gate. Again, I don't necessarily know if it's a safety item, other than kind of like the gear washes now at the fire department, the truck with the lift gate, and that avoids the guys from lifting extra and that. However, it may not necessarily be a full community type of safety item.
Yeah, he was explaining that it's a safety item for our town workers.
Correct.
Yep.
So they wouldn't have to lift things with the lift gate, and that's what the purpose of the lift gate would be for.
Would workman's comp be an issue if we didn't get it? Is it I
It'd be an issue if someone got hurt.
Could answer that, like, yeah.
Again, that might be something that his rankings would show us too, if he feels that that's that may not. He's showing us what he needs for the department, but.
Well, I know that when you have the right equipment, it makes the job a heck of a lot easier, a heck of a lot safer, you know.
Oh, I agree. I think that, the other thing too is we've got a couple big ticket items coming up too that we can label everything safety really, but we only got X amount of money, and that's some putting a lot of the stuff forward. We still need to do our due diligence on what prioritizing how we feel that needs are too.
Just off the top of my head, I was looking at the specs, say they all have their, like, one WeatherTech floor liners. Is that really necessary? WeatherTech floor liners? I mean, it helps, but is it necessary? I mean, is there a way to, in the end, once we're going through, maybe for the final round, that, we could take some of the items that bring the cost up, the cost of the vehicle up, if we could take some of those off to bring the cost of the vehicle down and Mickey Mouse it into the budget.
Sometimes you can do that on some of those specs. Some of the specs are state bid specs, and they're bid out that way. I know a lot of the vehicles that they get through MHQ have they come with a certain package, is how they state bid it out on the bid specs. So I mean, you can sometimes cut out floor mats, but then you take out $100 and they add in the $75 for the ones they still have to put in to stay with the spec. So
yeah,
some of those sometimes are.
Well, I use that as a throw out, but there might be something a little.
With those floor mats, if there's contaminants on his boots, say he gets to an oil spill or something and he brings it back into his truck, at least those mats can be taken out and washed. Those WeatherTech are designed to capture spills and so forth. So I think that's why they stuck them up like that. That's
a good point. Your input.
The 6-wheel plow truck, sand truck. Again, I don't know if that's. I know it's a safety if the roads don't get plowed and sanded, but at the same time, it's.
Is that one you said might be a leaser? Recommend for a lease?
I think that falls in the same category when you start talking about ambulances and fire trucks and DPW trucks. When it gets to be that large of an item, because basically between that and the sidewalk plow, or the sidewalk machine, that'd be all the capital's money.
Yeah.
So I think that, albeit important, I don't necessarily know if it's safety as far as that goes. It may be, and a lot of these larger requests of vehicles, which unfortunately the town hasn't, they've got an aging fleet on all their vehicles. So it may be something that maybe down the road we put all the vehicles together and try to do some type of not all of them, but some of the requests together and do some type of a separate article for certain vehicles. I know it's not always the optimum way to do it, but that gives the townspeople, if they don't like the fact that their road may not have been plowed as soon as it should have been, but if we were down a plow truck, that's a reason. So maybe at that point, it gives the voters a chance to say, yes, we'd like another plow truck, or no, we don't mind waiting an extra hour. Sometimes it's not necessarily a life safety, but it is it's still a safety item, but.
The bottom line is we have a finite amount of money.
Exactly. If we had, I think it's certainly a worthwhile item, and we'll certainly probably still discuss it further down. Like Cheryl said, it's our responsibility to put the item forward if we feel that's where it's ranked, and it's also the Board of Selectmen's to determine and Adams to figure out how to potentially finance it or say, thank you, but we don't agree and we're not going to get it. And it's the department head's responsibility to bring it forward, which they have.
I agree. Those big ticket items should go before the townspeople, and they said they're the taxpayers, and if they don't like what they see, they have the opportunity to change it. So
the next item on DPWs is the sidewalk machine, the trackless mower / sidewalk cleaner machine. This seemed to be fairly high on the priority list for DPW and for the town. Is a safety? It actually may be. We're requiring, people to put in sidewalks or putting sidewalks in on all our road projects. I don't know people's opinion on the safety wise as far as the sidewalk.
Biggest concern is how much of our sidewalks, like the sidewalks at the library, the elderly, the handicap, that is something that would, who would take over the clearing of the sidewalks at the library and the handicap ramp, and, how much of our communities, our villages have sidewalks that need to be handicap and elderly accessible. And would that help up at the senior center, or do they do their own cleaning and plowing?
I think the town takes care of that, but it's, just the schools themselves. I mean, Narragansett, that Baldwin Road, that's all sidewalks that children have to walk on and parents have to walk on. And, you saw it in this storm. They didn't get done till 2 days after the snow. So people were walking on Baldwin Road. You go to these other towns and they're doing them during the storms in these other cities. And I realize we're small and we don't have, like a Westboro or these big towns that have big cities that have the funding to run these machines. But this machine that he has now, I don't know if you have the dating on that one, Terry, how old that thing is. But I know it's tired and it fails quite often. But it's a huge, huge ticket item. It's huge. But it's going to do multiple things. It'll salt, it'll sand, it'll plow, it'll sweep. And I think you can do over the rail mowing with it.
Yes, you can.
Over the rail mowing.
So it's a huge investment in the town, but it's also, it'll wipe out the capital fund too. So
That should be probably something that goes to the town meeting.
right,
And let the
exactly.
town vote.
Yeah,
He did say it was on its last leg. That's a lot of money to come out of capital planning.
absolutely, because you'll wipe it out. And like I said, big ticket items like that 6-wheeler and fire trucks and police cars, and that you should take care of your little stuff with your capital and go for your big ticket with the town and let the voters vote. I mean, it's their town, so.
We did get a letter from Kathy King. I don't know if you all read it, but she was asking us to please fund this,
And maybe that's something that put forward, and it could be something that if you spread that out over 5 years, suddenly now it's a purchasable item.
Right.
Or even
Adam,
There's no doubt that these things are safety items. It's just that we can't fund it all. It's just, I think that one, unfortunately, probably going to have to go to the town meeting to make it the most feasible at this point.
So Adam did a comparison study. Some towns have partial clearing. I don't understand what that's all about, but we clear snow and ice and sidewalks. Ashburnham, Athol doesn't. It says clear snow and ice from sidewalks, partial 1, only sidewalks on certain main streets. Monson, partial, clear snow and ice from sidewalks, partial 2, do approximately 2/3 of the town. And then Townsend 2, Winchendon 2, and then sweep sidewalks is a different, that's not as important as snow and ice to me.
I think the important thing is it should go to town meeting so the people can vote. If they want their sidewalks plowed, then they can pass it.
So
You shouldn't have to do a separate program.
Would anybody like to know, it says, in reviewing the manners in which other communities address the provision of these services, he narrowed down a few options that he'd like to pursue, and how much it would cost. So say purchasing a new sidewalk machine cost $210K to $240K. Union rate employee operating sidewalk machine, roughly $25 an hour. Option 2A, contracting the entire service, source outside, snow plow and blow sidewalks, treat sidewalks, sweep sidewalks in the spring, over the rail mowing, $90 an hour, according to Town of Munson.
Excuse me, Terry.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know if anybody's really disputing the fact that it's a needed, necessary item. I think it's more so that, because obviously we should be doing these kind of things. I think that what they've been talking about kind of is that it should be, it's something that we may recommend to put it forward, but put it forward to the voters. And that's.
And so, right, safety, you're saying safety. Does everybody think it's safety?
I don't necessarily know.
I'd say.
It kind of falls under the same as the plow truck, really. It's cleaning, but it's not necessarily immediate life safety. It's more of a secondary safety so that people, right now it got done 2 days later, but by a tired machine, but that still eventually got done. It's just, we're not as quick with it, but we may not have the staffing to do it during the storm anyway. So it's something.
Like I said, last storm, you had 7 guys, 4 were tied up with trees, and then they had a water break. So that sidewalks wouldn't have got done anyway that night. So,
I think it's something that it's important. It's like the 6-wheel truck, and that's where I think that you put them, together, or you do some type of a program to. I still think we need to put it forward once we get going through, but quite a few members have said, put it forward to the townspeople and let them make a decision on that at that point.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Scott, for signing on. You bring a well-rounded point of view to the discussion.
Hamlet Mill, the Hamlet Mill Bridge at Otter River. Again, I think at this point, I don't know if it's necessarily a safety item or if it's something that he can possibly looking forward. I don't know if I'd put it under life safety as far as going through the list, as far as quickly to look at the safety items. Any other input on that or any ideas on that?
I don't know the history of this bridge. Is it failing, or is it something that is the bridge actually open and passable, or does it just need repair? Or
I believe it's open at this point. I believe, but it's not. It's starting to fail.
He said, use justification and useful life, preventing bridge from being closed for many years to come. So, right, what he's asking is design and repair.
Okay.
The next two, the smoke machine and the transmission flusher, I think those aren't necessarily safety items. Those are items to help better repair the fleet from outsourcing the. It would reduce the cost on maintenance, but I don't think it's necessarily a safety item.
You know what he's talking about, Scott, the smoke machine?
Yeah, I saw the specs on that thing. Like you said, it's not a safety issue. It's just a maintenance issue with the trucks and so forth.
Could be a throw-in at the.
Electrical panel at Town Hall.
Is that knob and tube?
I believe
Yeah,
so.
That's outdated.
safety issue.
That is a safety issue. That's outdated.
That's extinct. Is that electrical system failing at Town Hall? Are they having outages up there?
It's, we have several panels, and it's one of the two older ones I think they're replacing. One's knob and tube, and one's just a really old, not knob and tube. I'm not really sure what it's called.
So he was saying to make more room in panels for additional power in the office spaces and of tripping breakers.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it might be something that, again, it falls into as we go around, it may not be an immediate life safety, but it's something that may certainly make the second round that we look at as far as going through on items.
So he said demo existing subfeed conduits due to being improperly sized and run new conduit and wire to existing piano locations. He has a few descriptions more if anybody wants to hear them.
So we're looking at that as not as a safety item immediately, but as a building repair potential item.
Yeah.
Senior center roof. Roof replacement.
That's covered, so can't we skip over that one? Oh, senior center. I was thinking library. Sorry, my bad.
Again, that's a large item that may possibly need to go to the townspeople as far as that goes. I don't know if it's an immediate life safety issue at this point. It certainly would be a convenience issue, and it would be a health and welfare, but not necessarily immediate safety.
If your roof caves in, that's a safety issue.
I know a year ago, they took pictures, they went up there and they pulled back some of that rubber roofing, and there is severe decay near the gutter lines. And that's a seamed building, so all those seams overlaid. And I guess when you walk up there, that's when new leaks appear. So I don't think it's going to fail. There is rot up there, and I don't know how much longer we can Band-Aid that building.
What he said is this should have been the first project in the remodeling process.
Yeah.
Mention if they looked into warranty and the job that was done less than 3 or 4 years ago for a roof that should probably be 25 years.
Because I guess they just filled the seams. They didn't do the roof. So that's the original roof that came with the buildings when they put them together, and then they just overlaid the seams. So that's the problem. I guess it's not a consistent roof where it's not one solid roof, it's many roofs, and they're older than the seams. So I don't know what the warranty was when we had those buildings installed.
Holly, you're saying that they're fairly new roofs and they should be under warranty?
They just put the whole thing together 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Who would be in charge of that?
What?
Who would be in charge of finding that out?
Probably Bob, right?
Bob. We would probably have to look at the files here to see who did it.
Yeah, it would be because it's before his time that it was done. Otherwise, he probably would have had that information at his fingertips. He has such a good memory. So
I don't see it as it's not failing, it's not leaking unless someone walks on it and disturbs the seams and so forth, but I don't think it's going to cave in or anything.
I think they did have a leak.
Yeah.
So it's probably something that we need to look at moving forward with the town, but not necessarily as a safety item as we're going down the list.
Could we put our recommendation as find out about the warranty? Could that be our recommendation?
That could be one of that we could look at. That certainly we could recommend when we do our final recommendations, or we could recommend putting it forward in the town, have the townspeople decide if that roof needs to be replaced, or.
Well, I would say put out the recommendation, find out if it's still under warranty first.
Right. The zero-turn mower, I don't believe that's a safety item. Cat shelter roof replacement, not a safety item. Painting the cat shelter, not a safety item. Fire escape at the School Street Fire Station. It's a building safety item, but I don't know it's necessarily a safety item. Again, it falls into a couple of these that when we go back, it's something that may need to be done for the safety of the building, but not necessarily immediate safety, life safety. Emergency management building, restoration and construction. That's not a safety item and possibly could be the age of the building, and that could possibly be a CPC item down the road, potentially at the historical building. Town hall cupola, a rebuild and restore, it wouldn't be a safety. The next four are parking lots, repaving, restructuring. Not necessarily a safety item on the list, but something as we go along, I think would be needed as like other building maintenance projects we've got coming up. That
You talking about the town hall parking lots? Or town,
the town hall parking lot, the DPW, the 2 fire stations. I mean, parking lots are,
that just came up on the agenda for the select board. I don't know if you've been watching the meetings, but the select board voted to make a change, but they didn't vote.
Make the change in the parking lot?
They just made a change. They voted to make a change that wasn't going to cost money, but they also discussed the fact that the handicap accessible should be done at the town offices. Does that have to go through us, or is that something that because they discussed it, it's covered? We discussed.
Well, they didn't submit it as a project, so I'd assume it wouldn't necessarily be a capital project that they're looking for yet this year. Maybe next year they'll put.
Because we're out of code according to Mass General Law for our handicap at the town offices.
I think Bob's waiting for the ADA compliance report for the town before they submit a plan, because it's instead of nickel and diming it, they want to do one master plan and fix all areas of town. So I think that's the plan.
Yeah, Adam got it. It's 166 pages. And he said
it's huge. It's huge.
Okay, so as far as repaving the parking lots, though, on the capital plan here, that wouldn't necessarily be safety items as far as what's been presented to us, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Replace the backhoe, not necessarily a safety item. De-icer cables at Templeton Center Fire Station, not really a safety item for that. Again, it's a building life safety, kind of like the fire escape where those icicles form on that building, I know. And potentially they get pretty large, could fall on someone in the building, outside the building. Again, something we kind of look at. Fencing over at Michael's Lane, the irrigation, the concession stand. Again, they're not necessarily life safety issues up there. And potentially could be funded through other funding sources, and just have to come through capital planning as far as the project-wise, I believe, as far as safety-wise. Any other questions on safety items as far as actual life safety? Okay, so kind of what we got on the safety items, we got money-wise, well, quick, just to give as far as safety-wise, we've got the cruiser replacement. Who's got a calculator there that wants to do a little bit of tallying? Cheryl, you got a, okay. Cruiser replacement is listed as 56,075.
Yeah.
The bulletproof vest replacement's at 10,800. The portable radios were 88.94.
8,800.
Yes, 8,600, sorry, 8,694.
Okay,
The computer replacements, we think we had determined that wasn't the voter system was 9,000. But that he was going to look to see it could be out of other funds. I think that was going to be able to come out of the 911 grant. So
take the 9 off.
take the 9 off. The vehicle exhaust system at the fire station was 35,500. The SCBA's, I know that was for all 28 of them. The total came to 126,000, but he also, we've done that in phases last year, this year, and that was what the light department did on their pilot. So I'm unsure if maybe we can talk to Adam and have him approach the light department to see what their willingness is to continue that replacement. If not, I think it's something that we need to do on our end, but maybe we can kind of put that to Adam and see if we can go find out what they're thinking on potentially, if we'd be fortunate enough to have them to continue that. The hose was 30,000 for the 4-inch and 16,500 for the 2.5. So I'm not sure what that's all we had marked as full safety items.
All right, so we're at 157,569.
And that's without the SCBA's, correct? Without that one?
Yes, correct.
So that's at 157. What'd you say, 157?
157,569.
Did you get the breathing air compressor for fire?
No.
72.
I was going to say that makes a difference. That's at 72,000.
Yeah. Now you're at 229,569.
Didn't he say that we could replace parts of the hose? Like we didn't have to replace all 6,000?
Sections, yeah.
Yes, he did. Yep. He broke that down, and we certainly could do that. Again, that's something that maybe when we sent out to him, we could ask for a recommendation from him on how much of each would, because I think what he had said he'd like to do, he'd replace it all on one truck and then do another truck so that it was all not necessarily spread out. You'd get each truck done at a time.
That might help spread the joy, spread the money.
So that still leaves us, I think we're looking at a target, I think, if I remember correctly, like around 525.
That's what Adam said.
Yeah.
He cut
So
75,000 because of COVID.
Yeah, so that would leave us with a little over 295,4 and change.
So a little under, so 295,000 as far as still remaining for those that we felt were on the fence, on the borderline as far as things go too. And that's if we were to recommend those that we labeled as safety items. I think that certainly the ones that are coming from other funding sources and will be able to come out of them, I think they're each department going forward, like the cable, if they're coming from the cable returned earnings and not necessarily and not going to be a taxpayer expense, I think they're fantastic ideas and move these departments, that department forward when it comes to those.
Absolutely.
I think that, again, same with the, with the sewer items, if they're coming from the sewer enterprise, the retained earnings from the enterprise fund, then I think that that's something that the sewer enterprise fund is for when it comes to that. I think those items, same as like down at the bottom with the Michael's Lane and the Gilman Wade items, if the CPC is, I believe Scott and you probably got the best input on this. The CPC had voted to move forward on these, but it hadn't come to capital. So we had talked about bringing this before the board and going through the channels with this whole project.
Mhm.
And those potentially, again, wouldn't necessarily be taxpayers' money. It would, as far as out of the tax base, it'd be on the potentially out of the CPC funding, correct?
Yes.
Did it, not all of it now, from what I understand, did Adam send it out and they said the concession stand might not fall under CPC money? To my knowledge.
Would have to look back and check on that.
I can try to look it up on.
As far as, in the process on that. So if we're looking at those type of items, that brings us back to, replacing H1. That necessarily possibly, we kind of talked about that for quite a while. And that would potentially could be an item that at 30-something thousand, we'd still be able to take that out of capital. We wouldn't have to, it's a smaller vehicle, so we wouldn't really be looking to lease it. Other electrical town.
One thing Adam mentioned, I don't know if it was offline or online, about like, say a roof, needed an emergency repair. Then that's why we're putting money away, the rainy day fund, chapter 40, section 5B, rainy day fund or something. So that, because you're looking at the cupola in Baldwinville. I know that the people, in East Templeton, I know the people in East Templeton are passionate to preserve what little history they have, and that cupola means a lot to those people. So if something like that were to need an emergency repair, we're trying to build up our retained earnings, am I right? Our rainy day fund for that type of emergency. Because if a roof really goes under, you need to repair it, or
Right, but I think as far as our job putting things forward, I think that, no offense to rebuilding a cupola, but we do have to, it'd be very nice for that part of town, but it's not necessarily maybe as important as the highway department needs a truck or something of that nature. I don't know if we want to continue going through, or if we want to look at the list and bring forward our ones to the next meeting. I know we're on a little bit of a timeline here tonight. They do have a second meeting coming up as far as later on. So we do have a pretty hard stop at prior to 6:00 so that they can switch over. So I'm not sure if we want to send out to the departments requesting their priority be sent to us on their list. We can then compare that to where the safety items were. We certainly, with what we said with life safety, we were well under what we're looking to put forward as far as out of taxation money. And we can also still go forward and do our final recommendations on the other items that aren't necessarily going to come out of taxation. They may have other funding sources. We can certainly, I think I can send an email out to the department heads asking for if they have any other possible funding source that items are coming out of, if that's going to be, if they could note that also in their next to their priorities. Like I know Chief Bennett was looking into checking to see if something would be covered under the 911 grant and something of that. If it's going to be covered under that, then we don't necessarily want to take it out of the capital planning items, in my opinion.
That makes sense. And so should we send them our initial evaluation and have them respond?
I think just having them rank what they're looking for, and then we'll make our final recommendations at our next meeting, which we are going to have to change the date of, by the way. I was notified tonight that TCTV, that the school committee has a meeting we're going to overlap with our meeting on the 2nd. Holly, I think we had talked about the possibility of doing it on that. If we could do it on Thursday at 4:00 instead of Wednesday at 4:30.
Thursday the 17th.
On
4 doesn't really work for me.
4 doesn't work for you? Good.
Yeah, I'd be kind of close on that one.
How about 4:30?
It'll be close.
Yeah, we should be fine at 4:30. I'll definitely be back, but 4 could be iffy.
Okay, the only
I like
reason
5:30 on and off week. You know how usually like tonight I have,
we wouldn't be able to do 5:30 that on Thursday because we have advisory committee
oh, there you go.
that same night.
We need to be done by 6.
So
Yeah.
the best days for me are Mondays and, Tuesdays and Thursdays are a stretch.
Well, that week, I think Steve had a conflict on Tuesday, so I think the only day that week will work is Thursday.
That was
Not Monday?
What's that?
Not a Monday?
We can check with Steve and get back out to everybody. And
Well, Thursday.
Monday's booked, Terry.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
We have 2 meetings Monday, actually.
Oh my gosh, I'm probably going to be at one.
so I know we want to try to get it in because we need to get our final recommendations to the board and to Adam so that they can move forward with the other projects.
So you're saying Thursday, December 17th?
At 4:30. I know I can't go any later only because we'll overlap with advisory because I don't know
That's
how
fine.
final recommendations are going to be.
Yep.
I think we've scrubbed it down pretty good, so I think it'll go quicker now once we get the rankings from the department heads. I think we've scrubbed it pretty good. We got the safety items out of the way, and now we just need to finalize it.
Are you going to send those out?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I thought the forms that they filled out that Adam had put together last year, when they submitted those were supposed to be ranked in the order that they wanted them. Is that not what happened?
I don't think they ended up ranking them this year. That doesn't appear from what I could see.
I don't think they put number 1, 2, 3. I think they were just in order listed in order of their items. Maybe not.
That I can't tell you. I can't answer.
Yeah, maybe not.
I think if they were, then they'll have an easier time, I guess, giving us the rankings back as soon as they are. And as soon as we get the rankings back from them, we can make sure to get them out to everybody so that they, you can see them also, so you have the rankings. Anybody have anything else that they want to go into tonight, or kind of continue reviewing the packets and move forward with the 17th?
Good to me.
Okay, anyone have anything else? Holly, you got anything?
No, I just wanted so you're going to email the department heads. Will you have it back so we can have it a few days before and we'll have
Hopefully.
plenty of time to go over it?
I'll get it out to them and hopefully we'll get it back from them. I'm sure we will because they know it's important if they don't rank it for themselves, we do, and that may not be to their best interest. So I'm sure they'll get back to us.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Justice, do you have anything else?
Oh, I was just going to say, especially with some of these that don't have additional possible funding sources listed, if they could also, if they just happen to exclude that, because if some of these, like for the police, happen to be potentially under the 911 grant, that would help us a lot. So we could just get some of these off of our list completely. So we could just recommend them, but it doesn't come out of free cash. So that would be good.
Yeah, I can include that in the email that I send out to them, ask them if there's any other potential funding source, if they could note it at that point. That would help us in that. Terry, anything else? Is that a no?
That was a no. Scott, I didn't know if you got the email about the lawyer recommendation about the concession stand. Did you get that?
I did, yeah. Yeah, that's something Adam's working on, but I pretty much have to recuse myself from that because I serve on those committees, so.
Right, yeah. All right. I'm good to go.
Gerald? All set? Scott?
I'm good, yep, I'm good.
And I'm all set. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. Holly, yes?
Yes.
Justice?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And Scott?
Yes,
And I'm a yes. All right, thank you guys. Have a nice night.
thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a good night.